Muslim radicalism and indeed extremism. Well, joining me now to discuss this further from Westminster is Khalid Mahmood, the Labour MP for Birmingham Perry Barr, and Salma Yaqoob, a former councillor in the city, is in Birmingham for us. Welcome to you both. Khalid Mahmood first. I know you've been waiting a long time, so thank you very much for your patience. Do you accept the fact that amongst many possibly very disturbing things, there is no evidence here of a plot to do anything in Birmingham schools?
Well, this inquiry doesn't actually look at the plot, but if you want the plot, then perhaps when we sit down and we can go through the characters that are involved across Birmingham and across the piece, we can put that together, and anybody with a bit of sense and looking at the characters involved in most of these 15 schools, you can do that quite clearly. But as far as I'm concerned, there is a culture of grooming which has been highlighted in all the reports that have come through, and similar, certainly in all three of the main schools, 4 schools actually, if you include Saltley into it, and you've got that real culture coming through, the similar sort of criticism across the whole piece, and it's a huge coincidence that that's happened.
Well, Salma Yaqoob, there are all sorts of things that Sir Michael says in this, in his letter to Michael Gove today. Difficult to pick one thing out, but do you accept culture of fear and intimidation? That's an extraordinary charge to make. Is there any ground at all for it, in your view?
There certainly has been a culture of fear and intimidation, and that's on the behest of Michael Gove, who has politically directed these Ofsted inspectors, in some cases the same inspector going back to the same school within a year, from outstanding to inadequate. We can't pretend there's not a political context to this, and Khalid Mahmood and Michael Gove have both signed up to a neocon outfit called the Henry Jackson Society, and many people in this country would consider their views extreme.
But listen, all sorts of things here are mentioned, aren't there?
Yes.
The idea that...
but actually the biggest thing is, as you started off, no extremist plot was discovered and no evidence for extremism. This is actually a good news story.
Can I just...
People seem to be determined to find something negative to say about Birmingham schools.
Indeed. Let me just come, Salma, before I leave you, just answer me this question.
To the parents who said we have confidence in the schools. The schools are actually going to have a judicial review because they are robustly challenging many of the smears which Michael Gove has continued to use his parliamentary privilege to claim.
Let me just come back to what Sir Michael Wilshaw has said in here. Now, things like girls being taught separately, intimidation to the point, he says that school leaders, which is a bit of a strange term for most of us, I think he means teachers or head teachers, being so worried about what's going on that they would only speak to the inspectors in a supermarket car park.
You could say that about many other situations. In large institutions, I'm sure in the BBC itself, you would not be shocked to find people complaining around human resource issues, people not getting on, but to use it under the charge of extremism, this is what I'm concerned about. Would I be surprised about malpractice issues? Would I be surprised about some intimidation? No. I'd be shocked if after all this investigation, some of these things were not found. But actually, on balance, because I actually went into the schools, unlike Khalid Mahmood, you'll actually see schools like Old North, 70% of the leadership is not Muslim. Parkview has been led by a Sikh gentleman who has been part of that school for 17 years, and an Anglican priest. The idea that Islamic extremism was not only allowed to be promoted or tolerated is absolutely ridiculous, but it does fit in very well with the neocon ideology, which Michael Gove very much promotes, and surprise, surprise, wrote about Trojan horse many years ago.
Khalid Mahmood, let's come back to you. Do you think that Ofsted inspections, unannounced inspections, are the way forward to try to tackle not only the sort of things that have been discovered in Birmingham, but all over the country?
Yes, I think in most of the walks of life where these inspections are there, inspectors come in and assess the situation and deal with it. The way you prior notice is these issues change and things move on. And I think really Salma has got to look at the wider picture. If she speaks to the amount of teachers that I've spoken to, the amount of governors that I've spoken to, the amount of numbers... No, Salma, if you please give me an opportunity, I didn't disturb you. So can you just let me carry on, please? What I'm saying here seriously is if you speak to the teachers, if you speak to Muslim women teachers, Muslim senior teachers, and the way that they've been treated by some of these governors and the way they've been dealt with, if you speak to governors, the way that they've been pushed out, other people have been installed in their place by Tahir Alam, if you look at the connection around the people, around the whole way, if you now even look at the interviews, if you hear the interviews,
Salma, come on. Please, just let Khalid Mahmood, would you just bring this sentence to an end and then let Salma respond?
Yeah, if you look at all these things, if you look at the students that are saying these things who've said to me previously what the issues are and how they've been harassed, if you listen to trainee teachers and the way that they've been dealt with in these schools, then you will have an idea. Don't just go to the schools that are saying that we're okay. Go to the people who've been affected by these people and the 200 odd people who made complaints to the council that need to be investigated.
Right, Salma, your turn.
Activist around women's rights, all of my adult life. I certainly would stand against any form of misogyny, any form of harassment. And if there are any cases like that, they need to be robustly dealt with. But the idea that this is all about extremism, infiltration, this is what's scaring people in Birmingham and across the country. This is what's made this a very, very emotive issue. And let's be very clear, no evidence was found. And Michael Gove should be stating that very clearly instead of using his privilege to add more smears.
Salma, I want to ask you one last question. Very important. Michael Gove said in the Commons this afternoon that it was his intention that all schools, Birmingham or elsewhere, should be there partly to promote British values. Do you agree with that?
All these schools should be subject to the same curriculum, to the same values, and in fact they already signed up to them. That's what made them outstanding. What I don't think is very British that Michael Gove seems to be representing is bullying, is abuse of power, is intimidation, is using smears to actually taint a whole community. I don't see that as a promotion of British values. I see that as the very opposite of British values.
Salma Yaqoob and Khalid Mahmood, thank you both very much indeed for joining us.